Park District Board of Directors back into order. We've been in closed session, and there is nothing to report. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner,
Present.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Dransfeld, Director Roberts,
Here.
Chairman Malloy.
Here. As some of you have noticed, Director Magner is visibly here tonight. She's at a CSDA convention and is attending virtually via Zoom. Amendments to the agenda. Any changes?
Yes, can we pull item,
That's next.
what? Amendments to the agenda? Okay.
Yeah.
No amendments to the
Do you
agenda.
want a consent agenda? Or do you want to pull
Yes.
a number?
No, I'll do the consent, please.
The consent.
Pull consent item.
Okay, when we get to that, you can.
Right.
Okay, no amendments to the agenda. Move on to presentations. Part-time employee recognition. Macy.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy, members of the board, staff, and members of our community who are here tonight. My name is Macy Trueblood. I'm one of the recreation supervisors here for the district. Tonight, I will be presenting our part-time employee of the year. And while I would love to nominate all of our staff and the incredible work they do, I only get to choose one. But the one we have really stands out. So she couldn't be here tonight because she's working another job. But I'd like to recognize Olivia Lloyd. Olivia is one of our lifeguards, and she's been employed with the district for about 2 years now. And over the past few years, Olivia has been one of our most dependable lifeguards. She continues to give her dedication and her amazing work ethic to the district and provides the highest customer service to her customers and patrons that she interacts with. Her dedication first shone when I was actually on maternity leave, and she was helping cover all the other staff who couldn't make it in, were calling out sick, and the management that were helping cover the aquatic center just were always telling me how wonderful she was when I was out, and it was really calming for me to know that the center was in such great hands when she was there. So she not only lifeguards at our aquatic center, but she is an amazing swim instructor, as some of you may know. She provides her participants with thorough instruction, guiding them to be safe swimmers. She continues to be requested by participants when she's teaching. When needed, Olivia also helps out with our other divisions, working special events and our outdoor education, taking on the tasks with enthusiasm. So if you guys see her on Saturday at summer concerts, be sure to give her a congratulations. Olivia is a great leader, helping guide new staff, along with helping keep other veteran staff accountable with the tasks on and off the pool deck. Olivia is constantly offering to help in the office, asking if there are any tasks that I may need help with in and around the office. She always covers shifts when others need coverage and is always communicating with us when she has a schedule adjustment and has extra time to give to the district. She has turned into one of our most relied upon staff. Olivia is currently working towards her EMT license, as well as continuing her education towards her nursing degree. It gives me joy seeing her continue her education as a higher first responder and entering the medical field. I can't thank her enough for what she does and can only hope to continue working alongside her for at least several more years to come, or as long as she will stay with us. So as a token of our appreciation, we're gonna present her with a certificate and a little gift to say thank you. So thank you, and thank you, Olivia.
Okay, next item is public comment, and I only have one public comment card, and that's for a later agenda item. So are there anyone else that would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. And Director Roberts, which one would you like to remove?
Yes, I'd like to pull 7D.
7B.
Annual updates and two-year agreement between the
What's the
district.
page number on that?
master page 2. Since it's our first time, I'd just like to, ask a few questions.
You want to pull the minutes of the meeting of July 7th?
No, 7D is in David. Annual updates to your agreements between the district and community service groups.
Okay.
I couldn't hear that.
What's the page number of the 815 pages that we have to?
Page number 2, D is in David.
No, you're giving me the agenda number. I want the page
We want this
number
one.
of the
corner.
top.
Oh, you want all the page numbers? I'd have to go through, and it's quite the bulk of them, so I can take a
Okay,
look
yeah, I was
here.
just going to say. 44, okay. 44 of 815, okay. Yeah, the paperwork for the consent agenda items is about this thick tonight, so we need a little direction too. Okay,
Sure.
okay, go ahead.
I just have a few questions. I'd like to thank the CSOs for attending today, and just want to know kind of the process. It's our first time here, and with this being such a big part of what we do, I just had a few questions with regards to, is it pretty standard for us to have a 2-year agreement with, is it standard for us to have a 2-year agreement for renewals? And what sort of information is usually presented? Because, other than the 800 pages, the last time that I saw it was renewed was in 2017, I believe, some of the paperwork that I'd seen.
Right, so the board adopted in 2017 a 2-year agreement. So what happens is we've done a 2-year agreement, and then they come back on an annual basis to give an annual update. So this would be, 2019 was the last time this went before the board, so this would be the next time 2021's coming before the board.
And I see some of the CSOs are here, and one of the questions I had is if the CSOs would be willing to stand up those that are here and represented and just advise, if you're aware of what percentage of district residents are registered with your organizations. I didn't see that in the paperwork, but I know that previously for applications, that's something that we review.
I'm sure I couldn't hear a word you said.
I'm just asking, I didn't see the percentage of residents included in this, and some of the paperwork, the audits weren't there as well. So there's tax records, but it says that there is an annual audit, so we can review the financials, but
Well, there's no request for a percentage of participants in each program based on where they live. So, you're asking for data we don't ask for.
Chairman Rowe,
Yes.
just for Director Magner, can you guys all speak directly into your microphones?
sure. So I thought on the application, so is the initial application process different with regards to having a roster or list of district residents? Because we were provided previously with an initial application of percentage of district residents that participated or were registered for a potential candidate, but is that not something that we do on a recurring basis?
No, Lanny, I believe on page 47, starts with the community service group agreements. So page 47 through, hang on, approximately page 54, and then there's a majority of other things that then they also have to sign. So you want to kind of go through what the process is for everybody?
The process for renewing okay. So the process is that every 2 years, we're bringing this agreement in front of them. It started in 2017. Technically, it started in 2008 with just really a boilerplate. In 2017, because of the addition of Pleasant Valley Fields and because of Freedom Park, We updated the agreement in 2017, approved it with the board. In 2019, we provided another 2-year agreement to the existing community service organizations to sign, provide documents that support that. In this case, we asked for renter's insurance as an example, and now before you tonight is the 2-year agreement that would be from 2021 to 2023.
And when we outline these 2-year agreements and whether CSOs are required to pay cash or when we outline these, how do we figure out the process of who's capable of paying in kind versus who has to pay cash or for donations? Because I know that there's a wide variety of in-kind benefits, or not in-kind benefits, but in-kind payments, whether it's maintenance or other CSOs pay $30,000 or $43,000 a year. And so I'm just trying to figure out the process of figuring out who does in kind and how that number is calculated versus who pays cash. So
Good question. So we had some existing agreements with the soccer groups when we built Pleasant Valley Fields, and so there was a contribution that both organizations provide to the district to help offset the contract maintenance that we have at PV Fields. We worked out another agreement with Camarillo Girls Softball when they opted to run the fall ball and use Friday nights at Mission Oaks, kind of taking the, and in this case, we moved girls softball or co-ed softball over to PV Fields. We managed a $2,000 contribution from CGSA. The other groups right now, and we're working on this with CSO fees as part of our strategic plan, we are working on something, on a number of methods, if you will, to see if there's an equitable way for the groups to offset the cost that the district is taking on. But right now, all we have is some theories at best on how to proceed with that. Again, these were all kind of previous agreements prior to 2017. And so with that, we've stayed with those dollar amounts in those agreements.
So how long have those dollar amounts been in place, since 2008?
No, the first ones, the ones for PV Field started in 2010. And the CGSA, and this is a stretch, right around 2013, I would think.
And have those stayed flat? Have they changed? Have some of them changed into in-kind agreements?
No, those have stayed the same.
Just out of curiosity, what is the percentage offset by the contributions for PV Fields?
So combined between the 60,000, I would tell you it's probably 15 to 20%. And I don't have the contract, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Brightview, I want to say, is about $280,000 a year. Okay. Then it goes up. So right now, we're probably covering between 16 and 20%, and those are just rough estimate numbers.
So one of the other items I noticed was that some of the CSOs pay for maintenance on top of that, or there's itemized lines in their tax returns that say that, let's say, they pay $90,000 for maintenance. Is that on top of what Brightview does and what our staff does?
Not for PV Fields. In this case, one of the groups is maintaining the fields at 2 locations throughout the year. And so with that, they are contributing, I guess, if you will, in kind with a service to help offset some of the district costs with staff.
I was actually asking specifically about the Eagles. The line that I saw was, they had, for their 2019 tax returns, they had about $90,000 dedicated toward maintenance. So I'm wondering, if we have Brightview handling our maintenance, and they're contributing $30,000 in donations or fees, which I would assume would go to maintenance. The other $60,000, what, the part that we're not taking care of, what does that kind of go to?
I don't know that I
there a Eagles representative that could? The question I have is, in the 2019 tax returns, there was a $90,000 item, roughly, if I remember correctly, for maintenance. So, okay, thank you. I was just trying to make sure that if we're paying Brightview, and then there's also in-kind maintenance and all the other sort of maintenance, I want to make sure that, if there's a certain something that the Brightview is not taking care of, or our internal staff isn't taking care of, I kind of want to know what that's going to. So, thank you.
Director Dransfield.
Sure. So, looking at the community service agreements, just from our June 2nd board meeting, it would be inappropriate for us to approve these at this time, considering that the final discussion was just taking into further considerations a clear CSO policy. And this was heavily discussed in regards to Monka Soccer Academy's application to be a CSO.
One of the other questions I have is that in the documentation that we have, it says that we might waive fees for lighting for CSOs. I saw something in there. I might have read it incorrectly. Are there some CSOs who have to pay lighting fees and others who don't?
If I may, where did you see this? Because I am not aware of this. I
Let me take a look real quick. I believe it is on master page 52.
No, district fees for sports field rental may be waived.
Okay,
Light schedule shall be submitted to the district sports supervisor on a weekly basis, and they are required to pay for sport field lighting per the district fee schedule.
got it. I was a little bit confused as to why those two are kind of intermingled, so I just wanted to clarify one way or another and see if, we're giving some people lighting and others,
No.
Okay.
The light fees being a hard cost, we account for that every month. I'll invoice the community service organizations, and they've all paid their bills. They're up to date on that.
And then a little later on in our meeting, there's an item about special events. And I was wondering, are tournaments included in special events, or are those a separate issue?
Kind of a separate issue. Some special events. So we've had organizations in the past have their opening day, and it looks more like a carnival with a dunk tank and that type of thing. But the tournaments would probably fall under themselves, under a tournament, not under a special event.
Thank you. And then I did have, reading through this, I saw that some of the CSOs added a number of teams, and I was just wondering, what is the capacity for some of our fields as far as adding additional teams, or is that something that is tracked by the district?
So besides our sports complexes, organizations are also able to utilize neighborhood parks, schools, other places that are even outside of the district realm to hold practices. To my knowledge, they're all hosting games at our complexes. I haven't seen, yes, they're increasing their numbers. On the other hand, their numbers have also been larger in the past. So right now they're able to, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're able to host their games at their sites and their complexes within a timely period, or within a given day or given the week.
Got it. And I mean, obviously, we're all trying to come back from COVID, and this was from 2019, so I'm sure that's old information. But we want as many kids out there as we possibly can without, obviously overburdening the fields, because clearly we have some of the nicest fields around after traveling around the Southern California. So just want to make sure that we keep that and we're not overburdening. think that's all I have.
Director Dransfield, do you have any questions? Director Magner, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Director Malloy. I do not have any questions.
Okay, well, there's several cows and kids that need to play sports this week, and we need to be legally protected and contracted with those organizations. So I need a motion to approve the updated 2-year agreement between the district and the community service groups.
So move.
Second.
Karen, please call the roll.
And this is just for 7D, or is it the consent agenda altogether?
Yeah, it's for all the community service
Okay,
groups.
thank you.
Actions. Yeah, it's the recommended action.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Nay.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Move on to item 8, consideration of construction agreement and use and maintenance agreement with the Miracle League of California. And we'll have a staff presentation about it, and then I'll call up the public commenter, and anybody else that wants to comment or ask questions will be able to come up and ask.
Good evening, Board, members of the public, Mary Otten, General Manager for Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District. So, give a quick summary. The District Liaison Committee had been working with Pleasant Valley School District as well as Miracle League to find a location for a field. And this started approximately 2019, maybe before. It's been a while. So Miracle League, we've been working exclusively with the district over the past year to finalize a location and finalize agreements for a construction agreement and then a use and maintenance agreement. When we first started this project, we were looking at just a construction agreement, but due to the need for them to find further grant money and such, we've done both agreements. So it's taken us a little longer than what we initially thought. So just to give you a quick background, Miracle League started in Georgia in April of 2000. There's over 300 Miracle Leagues currently in the U.S., Puerto Rico, and Canada, which serves over 2,000 youth and adults with mental and physical disabilities. So as I mentioned, in 2019, the district's liaison committee and PVSD's Pleasant Valley School District liaison committee met to do some site exploration. And when we first sat down, we looked at Freedom Park West, Wood Creek, Pitts Ranch, University Prep Charter, which sits right behind the community center. So that's where we initially started in 2019. So where are we at today? In January of 2020, we had an ad hoc committee that was formed to address field space. So we reviewed field space out at Freedom. And I'm going to show you the master plan, show you kind of where that's at, and then we'll go more specifically. So this was the master plan that was approved in 2010. So I'm going to try and use the pointer here. So the fields that are currently in place are the Bronco, Mustang, Bronco, what is that? Pony, sorry, veterans, and then part of the next phase, we just put these two in down here. So the area that we're talking about is in this area right here, which you can see is a Pinto, and then there's the future of a Mustang. But the area specifically today we're going to talk about is the Pinto area specifically there. So up close, so you can see it a little bit closer, there's the Pinto area and what it looks like in the approved master plan. Here's what it looks like today. So as I said, the Pinto field, we are changing to a Shetland field, and then right below that will be Miracle League. So instead of one field in that location, you will now have two. So in June of 2020, the district and Miracle League entered a consent to enter, which meant that they could actually start looking at the piece of property, working with architect to kind of look and see what that space would look like. and start to put plans and drawings together. And since that time, we've been working on these two agreements. So we're going to start with the construction agreement. So as part of the construction agreement, there's 7 key pieces to that. A professional service for design, we'll go a little bit more into these, the refining the plans and the details, the bid, construction, the funding, the construction phase, insurance, and then the exhibits that you'll see in the back. So some of the key points with the professional service design. So we had been working, the district had been working with Jordan Gilbert Bain Architects. So as part of that, we had asked Miracle League to work with them as well. And the reason that became important, the reason why it's still important, is out at Freedom, there's a very low water table. So there's very specific things that you have to know about that. He also helped design the irrigation out there. So it helps when we have to go back and they have to relook and have to maneuver around some of those things. So that way we don't have somebody new. That way it helps us and it helps Miracle League to cut down on the details. So the second part of this, as we're going through this, is the refined final plans and details. So when we look at site plans, parking improvements, grading, drainage, utilities, there are some of those things that they're going to need to address. So for instance, when we're looking at a site plan, and it's kind of hard to tell, but when you look at the site plan, one of the things with Miracle League Field, it doesn't sit on grass, which means they're going to have to build that field up about 3 inches, if I remember, it could be more. So what will end up happening is they're going to have to then look at drainage. As I said, the water table is really low. So part of this, when they're looking at this, and part of that is they're going to have to look at the drainage, the utility needs out there, what the site furnishings, landscape plans, so that will all be a part of this with the agreement. The other part is putting together all the bid documents. So as part of the bid documents with the construction, so specifically with the bid documents, what we'll need to also look at is what is a part of that. So one of the things that we've talked to Miracle League early on is they may have stuff that it's donated. So something unique is that we are a public agency, so we have to go through the Public Works project. So as part of the bidding process, I'll go back a bit. So as part of the bidding and the construction docs, one of the things that we're going to have to do is identify early if there are materials and or labor that potentially could be donated. And those are very specific. So as part of that, we will be working with both our attorneys, the ad hoc committee, as well as Miracle League to make sure that those are identified up front. So we don't go through the big documents and then all of a sudden have an issue down the road. Other key things are the contract for funding. So at this juncture, Miracle League will be paying for the entire cost of the new field. The other piece of this is if there's any modifications that we have to make to the Shetland field, which was literally the Pinto field, so anything that has to be modified. So meaning we know that we're going to have to modify the irrigation, because the irrigation right now goes through the entire section on the west end. So they will be working through those things specifically to make sure that those things are changed and updated. The other thing that they will be doing is provide a letter of commitment and a complete performance and payment bond in the amount not less than 110% of the bid approval. So most of this, what will end up happening is we will be working with their architect, just like we do with any of our projects, that it will go through our bid process because it will be a public bidding process. They will then have a performance bond and payment bond for 110%, which is typically what we do right now is when we budget, here's what the budget is, and then we do 10% for contingency. So the other piece of this is they'll be required, the district will be required to have a separate liability account with the district. So what will happen is they will put those funds for this project into a liability account. So it is separate. So we do not commingle funds. So that way, once again, as we're paying or as we're going through this project, everybody knows what this project costs. Miracle League, if we need to run information for them or records, they will have that as well. Okay. So part of the construction phase, we'll go through the bid documents as we normally do just as we would with any district contract. Must identify, once again, any in-kind materials and labor. So I'll give you an example specifically. So with the public bidding process, typically labor, depending on what labor, may or may not fall into prevailing wage. So for instance, if you have a supervisor, they might not have to pay prevailing wage if they have a supervisor, but anybody who's actually working on the project would fall into prevailing wage. So those are all the things that we will have to work through. We will also continue with an ad hoc committee which will review the bids, so that way everybody's on the same page before they come to full board. So that way Miracle League is a part of this process as well. And then the contracting party will be with the district, between the district and contractor. And I know Miracle League and I, Rick specifically, I know he's put a lot of time into this, so has Randy. So I appreciate all the help and what we've been through. So as we were having this conversation, part of that too is the district will be paying those bills out of that liability account. So it's important that we have control, so that way if we have to pay for something, I know that Bob, Nick, Brandon are very, they go through that with fine tooth comb to make sure that whatever they're submitting is to make sure the work is done. But we will also, as part of this, have weekly meetings with Miracle League to make sure if they have any concerns that we're walking through this with them as well. Okay, so a couple other key points, insurance and indemnification. So one of the things that we saw this year that we haven't probably seen for a while is the force majeure. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure is this was in there. We had been working through both these documents. We've worked through with both the attorney as well as Capri. So as part of this, there would be a temporary excuse from obligations. So just like we saw with COVID, for instance, if we had to shut down, this gives them temporary relief not to perform those duties, but they would have to restore that within a year. So if there's something that caused them, so another thing is what happens if there's an earthquake. So once again, if it took us 6 months, 8 months to get things back up and running, there's language in there that they would be able to help and get this restored within a year. Compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, and then the right to suspend for a 15-day cure, which means that they would have 15 days to make the cure. We would revoke if they weren't cured within 60-day period. So we wanted to make sure that that was good on both sides. Now, I remind you, this is only the construction part, and we have a separate agreement for the use and maintenance. So in the use and maintenance, the force majeure is not the exact same. So we have different language in there because this is construction. So for instance, with this particular, one of the things we want to make sure is that, let's say we do, let's knock on wood and hope this doesn't happen, but if there was, let's say they got half of it built and there was an earthquake, the question is what happens to that field at that point? Does the district have to come in and now all of a sudden shore up the funds and everything to finish it? And what this says is it would be up to Miracle League to do that. They have a year to do it. We would hope that what would happen is whoever's the contractor, that they would have insurance to cover that. But that's part of this process. All right. So in the back part of this is the exhibits, which field location, which I showed you to begin with, the Freedom Master Plan, so everybody knows what that looks like. And specifically as part of Exhibit D, which is on, if you want to look at that, which is page 648 of your packet. So Exhibit D kind of walks through more specifically the items that they need to address due to the changes in the master plan. So specifically the drainage due to the rubberized surface, reconfiguring the irrigation, which I kind of mentioned. Unfortunately, there is an old main line that is located feet, close to where the Miracle League field will be built. So after consulting with both Jay as well as the city, The challenge with that is if they were to build that, and didn't move that main line, then you would have to redig all of that surface up. So part of this is they will be moving the main line. We've had, 2 or 3 breaks within the last year or so, because it's a 50-plus year old. So those are some of the issues. Additional parking improvements and ADA requirements. So specifically as it relates to the U-shaped parking lot, which means, and what we did is we put language in there if it's required. So right now we have enough ADA, but if we build, because now we'll have 1 extra field at some point in time, because down at that end there was only supposed to be 2 and now you have 3, that if there is ADA or the city or county, and it's not just whether we want it or not, so we put specific language in there that it said that if it's required, that they would be responsible to do that. So those are some of the key points as part of that as we put this agreement together. All right, so that's the construction. Is it better to go through all of it for everybody, or did anybody have any, do you want to stop, break, and look at construction, ask any questions, and go on to both? Is there an easier way for the board? Good?
I don't think there's a
Okay.
lot of questions, so.
Okay, all right, I'll keep going then. Okay, so the next part of this is the use and maintenance agreement. So the use and maintenance agreement is an initial 10-year from the completion of this construction. So we'll actually sign this, but the actual date of the use agreement will not start until the completion of construction. So that means that if it takes them 1.5 years or it takes them 2 years, that's the actual start of the 10-year. And we did that purposefully, so that way we didn't sign it today, their 10 years started today, and then all of a sudden we're 2 years into it and we're not even, they haven't been able to use it. So the second part of this, which we all thought was a really good idea, is an annual review for the first 5 years. So, and part of that is whenever you have a new facility, you are thinking, okay, this is what it looks like today. So the plan is okay, we're going to use it as much as possible. Right now, the plan is to get it up and running. We're only using it on Saturdays. But as they build momentum, it could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It could be every Saturday, Sunday. So what this does is it gives us the ability to review it on an annual basis for the first 5 years to work out the kinks to see if we need to make any additions or any changes. The other part of this is that we'd look at successive 10-year increments on mutually satisfactory terms. So if everything's going well, we can both agree that this works, there's no changes, we can move on, or we have to look at it and go, okay, we need to tweak it a bit. All right, key points, permitted use. So one of the things that is key for Miracle League is that the use of the fields for the purpose of providing therapeutic recreational needs. And by therapeutic, and this is kind of broad, but what they wanted to make sure that everybody understood, it's people with disabilities. And that was important because that would be the main purpose. We have other facilities that able bodies can use and wanted to make sure that this stayed focused for therapeutic and disabilities. So Miracle League has the priority use. District has the ability to use the fields for activity toward persons with disabilities and special needs. That doesn't mean that that is the only use. If not, what we have in the agreement is we need to at least give them a 15-day notice that we're using it for something else. Like I said, the point is that we have other fields and space for able-bodied, and it really is to try and use this for special needs. They have the ability for ingress and egress rights, which just means that because they still have to go through district property to get there, that they have that ability and wanted to make sure that that was in there as well. Okay, compensation and maintenance. Miracle League won't be charged any fees for the use of the field. Miracle League maintains and repairs anything that happens to the fields. Now, I say that with the exception if the district has any type of use, and it is to our, we're running a program, and there we need to repair it, then it would be the responsibility of the district to repair it or to pay Miracle League to have it done. Responsible for utility charges. So one of the things we've been working on, and that was part of the other agreement, is that if they have electrical needs and/or water needs specifically, or any of those things, that the goal would be that they would have their own meters. So that way that we wouldn't have to commingle funds and they could worry about that. There are some specifics regarding that. We have some stuff regarding trash as well as bathroom usage, because we actually own that. So we're trying to we've worked through some of that as well. One of the things that we've started to do with some of the agreements is putting in here, as you can see, there's a $5,000 contribution for capital repair for the use of the U-shaped parking. So we redid that entire parking lot 2 years ago, Bob?
Yes.
It was 200 and,
2012 was the section right across from the field, and then
we did
the
all of it. So, which was about, all of it out there was about 280. So what we did is just did a contribution for the U-shape, which is only the portion that most of the portion that they would be using. And then the other key thing with this is on July 1st, deposit $1,000 for replacement costs of capital items. So the thought behind this is that what doesn't end up happening is at some point in time that turf is going to need to be repaired, replaced, is that there's at least some money in an account that they'd be able to do that. Now, the other key piece of this with compensation, if the district were to rent this out, then the district would put, got to remember, 25%. The district would put a portion of the money into a liability account, once again, that would help them pay for it. So if the district is actually using it and renting it, that it would help pay and go back to this capital. So that way what wasn't happening is we're renting it, getting all the money, and expecting them to pay for the entire thing. Okay. Other things, alterations and additions. So just like we do with any of our groups right now, is they would maintain an approved site plan. So if they wanted to make changes after this initial, and they wanted to add, I was trying to think, let's say they wanted to add a play structure out there that sat next to it if there was enough room. They could do that, but they'd need to come back, get site approval, written consent, add changes and stuff. So that's a piece that we have in there, and we have that in almost all of our MOUs or agreements. And then indemnification and insurance, which is standard, and then a section of miscellaneous and supervision use. And so with the supervision of use, if they're using it, theirs to supervise it. If we're using it, we're responsible for the supervision. All right. So at this point in time, the district doesn't anticipate a fiscal impact associated with this action other than staff time. So it is recommended that the board approve both the construction agreement and the use and maintenance agreement with Miracle League of Camarillo. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I'm sure Rick would love to be able to speak, or Randy, or somebody from Miracle League would like to speak. Or they may not.
First of all, are there any questions from the board? Director Kelly?
Yes, just one. And this is for Mary. Will Miracle League be able to rent the field out to someone else?
So the way that we have it in their agreement is that we've left this for Miracle League to be able to run their programs. So what doesn't end up happening is they're not doing programs that we're supposed to be doing. So if they're doing for Miracle League, or if they want to add a league that is for veterans or something for that specific field, but any rentals right now would go through the district.
Okay, I kind of understood that. I just want you to tell me that they don't have the authority to rent it out to like some group that comes in from another area or something. Maybe that doesn't even have anything to do with
No,
this.
it'd have to be one of their programs. It'd have to be a program run by Miracle League.
Okay. Well, I noticed that you mentioned that we would rent it from them.
Correct.
So is that the business arrangement?
Yeah, so as part of this agreement, what would end up happening is if we wanted to use it, let's say we came up with some league for, let's say, I'm going to give two different scenarios. So let's say that we started running an adaptive program out there. So an adaptive program, if we're going to charge a fee, and it's for adaptive program, that's totally fine. If we decided all of a sudden we wanted to run an adult wiffle ball program out there, then what we need to do is reach out to Miracle League and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and give them notice. And because that's the concern, is what we don't want to see is this all of a sudden becomes some rental that now has wear and tear and is for able bodies when the entire purpose of this was for with people with disabilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just that you use the term renting out, and I can't remember a time since I've been on the board where the district rented something from one of our,
It necessarily isn't renting, it's probably a bad,
okay, that's what I
probably a
thought.
bad term.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sounds more like a revenue share to me then.
that's correct.
Okay, yeah. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, how long have we been working on this as a board? As far as trying to get you a field. I know it's been a long time, but I've only
Year?
recently started paying attention, so I'm glad that this has
A
come
year
before.
probably solid.
Couple of years, yeah.
So it's been exclusive, so it's probably been 2 years since we started, which included the school district. It's been since January of 2020 that we literally started working with them alone. And then I think it was September thereabouts, once the board decided which location out at Freedom, because we had looked at 2 locations. We had looked at the east and the west end, and since that time, it's been about a year straight of going back and forth with the construction and the use agreement.
And this is a question both for the Miracle League as well as you. I think that we are missing some inclusive playgrounds, or there's opportunity for that, and Mary mentioned that. And I was wondering, is that something that is? I know that we're just strictly working on the field right now, but is that something that is viable in your opinion? Because that's something I'd either like to see at the fields there, or possibly at Ran Rancho in the future, if we're able to do that. Something along the lines of Arroyo Verde, like Ventura City has.
Yeah, so one of the things, probably 2 different subjects, but with the space that's out there, unless we're going to put it over by where the old playground was, which is also where the dog park, the backup dog park is, there's space potentially over there. As far as other playgrounds, I know at Ran Rancho right now, we're still going through, Bob's working through some of the design, and one of the things that we've asked is to make sure there's ADA and inclusive equipment as part of that. So those are steps we are taking.
And then with regards to the ADA compliance, I know that we have an agenda item at the end there with regards to ADA, and I was wondering if that's part of the intent for the ADA would be to assess the Miracle League, because as far as like the site, to make sure that we have everything that we need. I don't know if that would occur through the contractor or through the ADA contract that we might have later on, but if we could roll that, if that portion could be rolled into whatever ADA assessment.
Yeah, so for this site will have to be ADA compliant. And so that was part of the discussion we had as we're looking at parking and the U-shaped parking and some of the language in there, to make sure that those things are compliant. And that may not be something that has to happen today, but may happen depending on what it looks like in a year or 2 once they get up and running. That's also part of the reason those bathrooms down there are currently ADA compliant. And the sidewalk that sits right along is also ADA compliant. So that's part of the reason that this ended up, besides the fact that it was closer, away from the dog area, which was a concern, but those are also considerations why looking at this specific site that work because of all the ADA stuff that's already been put in place.
Okay, I was just kind of making sure if we can use the ADA that's coming, the contract later to take care of any needs for this, maybe we could find cost savings for all of us. So.
As far as the rental goes, I just wanted to touch on that. We have no intention of renting it out at all. You know, like if, for instance, if AYSO wanted to use it or, you know, soccer program, anything like that, you know, we want it to be used by anybody in the community. So that's the intent. We don't have any intention of renting it out for, especially since you guys aren't charging us for the field. So I just want to make that clear. And as far as the playground goes,
Rick, let me run the meeting, okay? We're still in board questions, and we're going to get to you shortly, but I want to make sure all the board members have the questions from staff answered before we move to the next step. Okay. Director Magner, do you have any questions?
I do not, sir.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for staff from the board?
Just for Mary, and when it was stated that part of it would be into the liability account for replacement, maintenance, and wear to the specialized field, it's 50%. Is the other 50% directly the districts then? Just wanting to clarify that.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's your only question? Okay. No more questions? Okay. Rick?
yeah, no, I think I said what I needed to say.
Yeah, oh, okay. You
Give me the
you
Jim
don't have any
Benning.
other comments? Okay. I have a public comment card here from Michael Zagakovsky. Did I get that right? Zabarski. Come on up, Michael.
Can the board hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, speak right in the microphone. You're doing great.
Thank you for calling me up. My name is Mike Zabarski. I have lived in the city since 2008. I've actually worked in the city since that time. I've had various roles within the city, but one I'm most proud of is being the law enforcement rep for Special Olympics in Ventura County. I'm also part of the Southern California Board for the law enforcement wing of Special Olympics, which is the law enforcement torch run. We have the concept of the flame of hope, and I wanted to address the board and just be sincere to Rick and Jody and everyone else who has been championing Miracle League for years. They have been a flame of hope for those who have intellectual disabilities. Mr. Roberts, you mentioned opportunities for our athletes to have places to play. There are none in this area. This is a premier organization run by premier people who have fought tooth and nail to provide these services and an opportunity, not just for sports. Simon Sinek has a phrase, start with why. So while we're talking about irrigation and access and everything else, I want to be clear that the Miracle League represents community, friendship, a chance to grow, a chance to showcase skills, abilities, a willingness to fight and just improve every single day, which is what has been occurring with Miracle League of the 805. They have fought tooth and nail to get this accomplished. They have had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, just like our athletes and their families. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited when I got the email earlier today that the board was considering this. It has been a long time coming. But I am very proud to live in a community, and I'm very proud to see that Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District is stepping up. This is and will be the premier sports field in the Tri-County areas. There is no other place for our athletes and their families to play sports. So I noticed the clock was not ticking. I have not been keeping track of my 3 minutes, but I wanted to say that, again, it's not really important who I am. What is important that you are moving forward with this, and you are giving our community an opportunity to showcase just how inclusive we really are. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I would also add that we got a very nice email message and support from former County Supervisor Kathy Long, saying many of the same things in support of the project. There's certainly a lot of support for this. Comments from the board?
In that email, she did request to be read into the record. Are we able to read that? Or is the fact that she emailed it
Yeah, that's, yeah.
considered reading
Yeah,
into the
it's-
record?
Yeah, we don't read emails into the record of board meetings, so, yeah, it's in support, so. Any further comment about this agenda item?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I know it's been a long time and I appreciate your persistence, and I'm very happy to see it in front of the board right now. I'm glad it's being considered by the board and that staff's already put in quite a bit of work with the organization, and that's it. Thank you.
Director Ransfeld?
I believe when I was running for city council in 2018, I remember attending the council meetings and having this be one of the items, and it's just so awesome to see it being put into action, and I'm really happy for this group, and as other speaker that was up here earlier, the fact that it's going to be the premier area for the Tri-County, that's huge, and that's something to be really proud of, and congratulations. I understand that this has been a lot of work from so many entities and trying to be as creative and cooperative as possible. So thank you so much for your time and effort.
Director Kelly?
I've never really considered this a project that wasn't going to be approved, and so I say let's get on and vote on it.
Wow, a short-winded attorney. Who knew? Director Magner?
Well, I'm even going to be shorter. I'd like to make a motion to approve both the construction agreement and the use and maintenance agreement for the Miracle League of Camarillo.
I'll second.
Okay, well, I'm going to get my word in before we finish. I got to tell you, I'm incredibly impressed. You've heard this story. I went to the then president of the board president, Gary Gasparino, in 1989 and asked when we were going to get enough baseball fields to meet the needs of the kids in Camarillo. And he said, well, that's going to take at least 10 years. At least 10 years. And he basically just dismissed me. Well, we had the grand opening on that in 2013. So it took a lot longer than 10 years. And you guys have pulled this together in just a couple of years. And you pulled it together in an environment that is way more complicated than what I faced in 1989. There was much less regulation. We didn't have prevailing wage. We didn't have a lot of this stuff. It was a lot easier to get things done. And you've done it. You've done it under much more difficult circumstances and with a lot more detail protecting both you and the district, to which I thank Mary tremendously, as well as the representatives on your side. Because, and the only good deal is a deal that's fair to both sides. And to bring this added amenity to the community is just awesome, because I love the fact that we have, certainly a great soccer field and baseball program and all that, but, we also have Tai Chi, and we have BMX racing, and we have model car, we have all kinds of recreation things. And to add this to it is really special. So, Karen, please call the roll.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Oh, of course, of course. Randy, would you come up to the microphone so Elaine can hear you and the public can hear you on TV?
I think this is Randy Churchill. I'm the chair of the Miracle League. This is an example of government and the community under Mary's leadership of getting something done, and as you mentioned, in a very difficult environment. And I want to thank you. Really thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's, we've been going for an hour here. Let's take